Hey everybody, it's Chris Parente hanging out at my home. Those of you who know me know that I talk for a living, and I'm Italian, so I talk even when I'm not on TV, but I've made a commitment to talk less and listen more. A lot of my friends that I admire and respect have told me the one thing I can do right away, starting right now, is to just listen. Just listen. To amplify Black voices, to support Black business, and most of all, to listen. So over the last couple of days, I've been talking to people that I admire, respect, and Mauchly's one of them, who we met years ago, Mauchly, on the Everyday
We did.
Show with Kathy J. And so it's
Yes,
good to
we
see you. How you
did.
doing?
Hey, I'm good, Chris. I'm good. Despite everything going on, just blessed to be safe and be at home with my family. So
Yeah,
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing. You met my family, my dog and my kids.
I did.
I'm doing well. Hey, listen, we got a lot of time to talk, and I want you to talk about whatever you feel comfortable talking about. But I'll ask you
Okay.
first. This is kind of a question I've asked most of my friends of
Yeah.
color. This is right now your opportunity, and actually, I should say it's a gift you're giving me. You don't have to do this. It's a gift you're giving me, and so thank you. But I would ask you if you were able to say one thing to me as a white man,
Yeah.
or to my Facebook friends who are white, who are not people of color, one thing you would want us most to know, either about your experience or about what we can do or ought to be doing, or what, just anything. It's your moment to really, I'm going to listen actively. What is that one thing that is weighing most heavily on your mind that you would want me to know?
I think the one thing is, as things are, as protests are happening, as people are calling for change, I think the one thing that, right, me as a Black business owner, as someone who studied business, who understands the power of economic capital and understands how that hasn't been available or present for not only Black communities, but, communities of color. I would say, as now we're thinking more about, what can white people do in addition to right protesting and helping us raise and amplify the voice. I think it's also thinking about, where are your dollars going, and, how can you divert them, or put some of your money also in the same space as what you're saying, into Black organizations, right? Nonprofits who, right, are struggling because they don't have the federal funding, right? But, whereas, other white organizations, right, have, big funders, funders with deep pockets that are willing and can help them out. That's not always the same for Black organizations. And I think as white people want to come alongside us, that's definitely, no one's going to come out and strictly say, right, like the money's an issue. But, I think that's a big part that we're not talking about. And if you look at, right, even speeches from Martin Luther King, his where do we go from here speech, he spoke about, how can we gain and help the economic development of Black people, right? And so, right, I mean, I think that's the one thing is, let's not just stop there, but let's also think, how are we using our money to also support these causes to help amplify, because at the end of the day, right, that we live in a capitalist society, and money is power. And so to say that's not something that is also needed in this fight would strictly just be misleading.
I think that's a great point, and I really, maybe we can get a deep dive into it, because we talk about the racial wealth gap in America. That's something we get into. But to your point, and as a man who is listening to what you have to say, part of the reason I wanted to invite you to talk is that I am a big fan of your business. For those of you who didn't watch the Everyday Show back in the day, Mauchly came on the show because he and his co-founder created a great company called Flair and Square. And no, you
Yes, we
wouldn't know
did.
I'm dressed in my denim shirt. I do like to dress with flair when I'm on TV. So let's talk about right now, people who are
Yeah,
watching. Maybe they're only going to watch for 5 minutes before they tune out.
yeah,
One thing you at home can do is to support Mauchly and his business, and you'll be
please
the
do.
better for it. Flair and Square. Why don't, while I show up some of these products, explain to folks, this is a company that focuses largely, originally, on pocket squares, right?
Originally on pocket squares. Yes, we started off, we came into the industry making pocket squares that no one has seen before, two-sided pocket squares, versatile And as we started growing, and it was strictly, we started with the pocket squares because, right, we didn't have much capital. So we had to figure out what we could do. And folding, creating a square is a pretty easy thing to learn. But now we've branched out and we've been able to reinvest in our business to learn how to make ties, bow ties, straight ties. You know, we're even now making socks. And so we've slowly been expanding. But right, to your point, we started off with pocket squares and we've just really been slowly investing in our business to grow it and to really keep it moving. And in addition to that, you know, we've also partnered with organizations like City Year Denver, where we've actually created a custom City Year tie with their logo. And we're actually giving 30% of all sales of that tie specifically to City Year to help youth in education, especially youth of color here in Denver. And so we've taken the business and we've also started thinking about, you know, how can we use the business to also support, you know, the social issues that we care about. And that's just one of the ways. But right now, you know, we're in the process of, we have our website, as you can tell with COVID, you know, things are mostly online. And so really right now, we're really trying to grow more subscribers to our website and really just more sales to our website so we can keep supporting the organizations, right, and keep Flair and Square going, just because of you know, our dream and all the work we put in.
It's a great website. And I will put the website, when I post this on Facebook and on Instagram, I'm going to put the website front and center. It's Flair,
Awesome.
Flare, flairandsquare.com. So I encourage everybody. I have to say, you know, I've been in news for 25 years. I have to wear a suit every day. And of all the pocket squares that I have ever purchased or have even been gifted, these are really the finest. And it's a thicker fabric. It's the beautiful patterns. And like Malcolm mentioned, like you said, each side has its own pattern. So you're really kind of getting two pocket squares in one. And what I like too is both those, if you look, both the fabrics will, if you do your pocket squares the way I do, both show through. It's a beautiful thing you're doing. I love it. So
thank you.
Let me ask you, that's something easy, relatively easy, that anybody out there can do starting tomorrow. If you want to change the world, you go one step at a time. Go to the website. If you're going to buy a pocket square or a birthday gift or a graduation
Father's Day coming up.
Father's Day. It's a great way for folks to do it. I hope everybody out there will at least go to flairandsquare.com and buy one pocket square. Do you know there's a man or even a woman in your life who could use one? You know there's Father's Day, graduation, birthday, Christmas, Hanukkah. Please.
Right. And we have socks now. I mean, we wear socks every day.
I know, you're making me jealous because when you came on our show, you hadn't make the socks yet. And I go to your website, I said, oh my God. And my birthday just passed. But it's beautiful. So let me ask you this, in my attempt to better understand, as a black man who decides, and by the way, we'll get into this, I want to get into your story in a second too. But as a black man in Denver who decides in college, I want to start my own business.
Yeah.
Help me understand the kind of challenges you face that I wouldn't face if I decided as a white man in college, I'm going to start a business. Did you feel there were disadvantages or extra challenges?
Yeah. I mean, I would say, you know, even mentors of mine that I had at that time, and I told them about thinking about starting a business, you know, and they told me not to, right? You know, they discouraged me from doing it. And you know, I don't know the reasons why, right? You know, but again, right, I'm an 18-year-old black person coming up to them saying, hey, I'm going to start a business, and you know, they're immediately telling me not to and discouraging me. Whereas, you know, I think in other cases, right, you may be met with more encouragement or other folks who are saying, you know, hey, like I know someone who's done the same thing, and then let me help you in that way. I think in that second, and then in another example, right, at that time, I'm studying international business at the University of Denver, right, and so I have access to professors and people who could potentially help me in that way. And I would say, you know, I wasn't met with the same vigor and excitement. You know, I remember sitting in class and thinking, you know, nothing I'm learning per se is really going to help me and start this business or kind of take that next step to where I can create more opportunities economically. And I really had to take a step back, and I took a business plan class because that isn't something that anyone I knew in my network could have helped me figure out, or could have pointed me on how to do it. I had to go and seek all that information myself. I would also say in terms of funding, right? That's the space to really open up to have people and possible investors come in and want to fund, right? Our business was also small. We talked with different organizations, right? Like Million Cup Colorado, getting our story out there, but just don't really have that access into our networks of people who, right, who have the ability to invest in a business and to really give us the opportunity to take it to the next level. I mean, strictly now, our business has been self-funded. I was working 3 jobs in college, and Fatima was working 2 jobs in college. And so we were just taking a little bit off of what we had into putting that into a bank account. And everything even to this day, we have not taken any real income from Flair and Square because we keep reinvesting into it. And we don't have an investor. Whereas a lot of businesses don't even get off the ground without an investor. And so I think that's just one of the things where, as a Black business, we had to realize that we had to get very creative in how we were going to make this possible, because our biggest challenge was, we just don't have the funds, and we don't have the network of people who can really put the funds or put the right people behind us, or even to get us at a table to go into a retailer. A lot of the, so in fact, a quick story for you is, after we didn't get into our first store, so right, me as a Black man trying to sell my business, going to stores, walking into different businesses to see if they're interested, right? Again, that wasn't always met with open arms, or people who were taking us seriously as a business, and then I went on your show, with every day, right? Me telling my business, having another white man saying my business is good. And I had a friend of mine, her mom saw that same special, sent it to the owners of Homer Reed, Bill Folk and those guys. And they immediately gravitated to it. And I went in and we set up a meeting. I met them, and they were the first store that took our product. But it wasn't until we had, right, an opportunity with someone like you that really gave us that legitimacy, to even get to that level. Now we do have a few more stores that we're working with that we've had products in locally, but again, it's still not the same. Still not the same as when you think about trying to get your name or push your business into different spaces.
Yeah, and I want to ask you, because I think there's 2 things at work. Maybe you agree, maybe you don't. The idea of, I, as a white man, can say and can believe, I'm not racist. I'm not racist, but can also acknowledge that I'm benefiting from a system that is
Right.
kind of hardwired to give people like me an advantage. So I
Right.
am benefiting from a system, even if I am not personally, I don't perceive myself as racist. I'm
Right.
benefiting from a racist system that has been set up that way for a very long time. So what I want to first talk about, you brought up a great point, is the idea of the wealth gap and the network, the resources
Mm-hmm.
that you had available to you. You feel that that's not the same as the resources that I would have available. Even if I'm not a racist person,
Right.
I have more. If I wanted to start a business when I was a junior in college, I would have more resources. Is that what you're telling me?
Right. Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of Black business owners would say, even Black business owners who've tried to go to a bank to get a loan, right, a business loan. You'll hear of, I had a mentor tell me, he wasn't able to get a loan until, right, he had a house. And so he was telling me, this is why you need to go get a house, because as a Black business owner, banks are going to want more leverage and more things before they give you a loan for your business. Right. Whereas, in those conversations, it just seems, overall the experience from, maybe our white counterparts or our white business owners, right, have maybe that easier access, right, to get business loans or to get funding like that. Whereas we as Black business owners probably not only have a higher kind of hill to prove our worthy of a loan, right, more things to prove that banks can trust us with a loan, but probably even, if you, again, I don't have statistics. I'm just kind of talking about my mentor who was telling me his personal story, and just the struggles of that is just, that's So sometimes that's an avenue that is taking so much time and so much effort that, and then it doesn't work out, that it seems as if, you're just discouraged because it doesn't seem like, you can get any funding for your business.
And then you end up working 3 jobs, 3 times as hard.
Yeah, right.
Make it happen. Do you
Yeah.
think, we could talk about that sort of, and I'm really pleased that the conversation about subtle, institutional, ingrained racism is coming to the fore, because
I agree.
I think white people like me may not even notice it, because
Right.
because
It's
it
so
doesn't,
subtle.
right? Doesn't impact me in a negative way. So I'm not paying attention. But also maybe more overt. Do you feel as a black man, as a man of color, do you feel that when you walk in a room, whether it's at a restaurant or whether it's in a bank to get a loan, or whether it's you going to a merchant trying to get your flairandsquare.com pocket squares on the shelves, do you feel that there are people who look at you differently, or do you have to prove yourself, prove first that you're not a threat, or that you're not a thug, or that you're not do you feel any of that?
Absolutely. And in addition to that, right, I'm a black man with locks, long hair. And so, while I was in college, one of my jobs was interning for a financial services firm where we suited up every day, which is actually kind of how Flair and Score even came to be. What was me having to suit up, and I only had 2 suits, right? And a day where I have to wear suits 5 days a week, I had to mix and match and kind of get all creative, and pocket squares was kind of the way, right? But when I was in the process of interviewing just to get this internship, I was part of Inroads, which is a nonprofit that helps minority college students get internships that hopefully lead to to full-time careers. And in the training, the lady said, you're going into financial services and you're a black man with long hair. So I would just recommend that, always wear your hair back. So essentially, like anywhere I went, right, I look like this. I could, like, my hair was always tied back and always meant to be in a place that seemed more conservative, or at least more presentable, right? And I think about my experience at the financial services firm. I was there for about 3 years. I think I had one day where we had like a field day, right, picnic, where I showed up with my hair down, because, right, every time they see me, I'm suited up, my hair's tied back, and someone was like, I didn't even recognize you, And it's like, well, there's only one other black guy here, But just from me, right, changing my hair, right, it's turned into a whole thing. And so I think, right, like from even from that age and thinking about my professional career, I'm hyper aware of what my hair, what my skin color says about me. And because of that, right, I think when you saw me on the show, right, my hair was in a back bun and I was full suited. So a lot of times when people see me, this is probably the most dressed down, if we weren't in COVID, that I've ever done anything for Flair and Square. Right. And so anytime anyone sees me doing something professional or something Flair and Square related, right, it's always me super dressed up, trying to look, as professional as possible, because of the narrative that, right, my hair and my presence have given people about kind of the first impressions, of me.
Yeah, I do. And that's just a fascinating insight, because I was talking to Such yesterday, who talked about her whole life feeling like her natural, and Such is a beautiful woman. And I'm going to say, I think you're a impossibly handsome man, but all the images that were coming at her told her the way she looked wasn't as beautiful. And
Yeah.
growing up, and after this, I want to talk about your childhood. But growing up, because you came here when you were pretty young, 5 years old, was it?
6.
6. Did you feel, as a young man growing up, going through puberty, coming into manhood in America, do you feel like you were taught subtly through mass media that
Chris,
you're not
I didn't hear the last 10 seconds there.
Can you hear me
Your
now?
audio cut out.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, I can hear you now.
It's because I'm on a 1984 Macintosh. What I'm asking is, growing up in Denver,
Yeah.
did you feel, as a young black man who was coming into manhood, that were the images coming at you, was the message that you were getting that you're not handsome or that you're not as handsome?
Absolutely, absolutely. I I mean, I think that message started for me early as elementary school. I remember having a crush on a girl in elementary school, and well, when I was still had all the guts to go up and tell a girl I liked her. I kind of told her, and the way she shot me down was just almost broke my heart in a way. In that there was another. So my first introduction to colorism, right? There was another black guy in my grade who was a lighter skinned black guy, right? And she essentially said, I don't like you, I like him, you know. And it was like, oh, okay. And so that was like my first instance. And then when I went into middle school, I went into Hamilton Middle School. I was in the International Preparatory Program, so kind of the accelerated program where the majority of our program was white students. And I remember, on the bus having kids ask me, why are your lips so big? Why is your skin so dark? Like, why is your nose so big? And it was questions, but it was never in a good way. And then I again, right, I had a crush on another girl and told her, and her response was she liked guys with lighter eyes. So it was always something about, right, like whether my eyes were too dark, my skin was too dark, my hair wasn't nice enough, my lips were too big, right? Like always things about my features that I had no control over, but that I have as a black man, right? That always seemed to not be good enough. And so yeah, I mean, I think from my first year in America until now, I don't, outside of the rare circumstances like you or my wife, the narrative is usually not around my features being seen as handsome or attractive, right?
So I don't think, and sometimes people are even afraid to talk. I'm glad we're talking because I think I can't speak for all white people. I can only speak for myself. I think sometimes there's a fear of like, not even wanting to talk about this because I don't want to say something that's going to accidentally be the wrong thing, or I don't want to, it's eggshells. And I don't want any eggshells anymore. Like, I think for me to try to process what it must have been like for you as a young man who's coming into manhood and getting all these messages that you're not handsome because of your color and who is it. I can only imagine how that would impact somebody moving forward. And by the way, you could have come on the Everyday Show. I actually think your hair is beautiful too. So you can come on the Everyday Show any way you want. But you mentioned in passing, well, I came here when I was 6. Very briefly, because we're going to get a little short on time. I want your perspective. You and your family moved here from Ghana.
Yeah.
You are really, in some ways, a first generation. Not even. You were 6 years old. Is there something unique in your experience coming from Ghana and your family as well, that you would want to add to the conversation of racism and race relations in America?
Yeah, I would say, and to try and keep this brief, a few points to really point out is, Ghana's, right, it's an African country. Yeah, I grew up where white people were the minority. When you saw a white person, you're like, oh, this is interesting. And then coming here, right? But it wasn't met with a sense of negativity or a sense of like, oh, we hate them, And so coming here, the introduction to difference, I was approaching my difference in that same way that, oh no, they're gonna love me for my difference, right? And that wasn't it. But then and then so to think about it, the reason why we came to this country was, my father left us a few years to come to the States before. To go to Princeton. So my dad got his master's at Princeton, which is, one of the most prestigious universities in the world, if not in the country, right? And then my dad, after he finished his master's at Princeton, got the opportunity to come to the University of Denver to get his PhD, right? And so during that time, one of my dad's professors asked, why is he, because he seemed like he was sad. And my dad said, because I don't have my family. And so they actually helped sponsor my family to come here. And so, we came here with the idea that, we're here for an education. We're here to really better our lives as a family. And so when you think from and as I'm older now and I look back, when I think from a standpoint, my dad's story is so humbling because my dad, having a master's from Princeton, working on a PhD, still worked as a cashier in the University of Denver dining hall, still worked as an assistant pastor. So I grew up with my dad also working 2 jobs. My mom working 2 jobs. And it wasn't until my dad got his PhD and until, it took him 5 years before a church offered him a full-time position. And you have to think, if you put that's the same credentials behind a white man, right? Degree from Princeton, doctorate, right? There, opportunities there'd be many places who would be offering him a job. But, my dad even had instances where, right, churches just said they didn't even feel comfortable because they weren't sure how people would react to his accent, because my dad does have an accent, and so it's almost to the point of, we're talking about from a religious standpoint, right? Having church open our arms, understanding that we as Christians, we live on a global scale, right? God has the whole world in his hands. So the fact that, something small like my father's accent, right, makes them feel uncomfortable or feel that, the message isn't going to get across was something I realized, right? That's part of the racism in this country, and that's part of the racism, even inside our body of the church that we don't talk about. And so, I've seen it in my dad's story. And so I think that was the first time when I realized, even as immigrants in this country, there's such a big reason why we're so focused on education. We're so focused on working hard, right, on creating those opportunities. But then, sometimes you check all those boxes that America tells you need to be successful. You have the credentials, and then, there's still something that's not enough. And so I think that's part of the racism, that the system perpetuates.
That's fascinating. That to me is, that's another thing. Reason I like talking to you like this is, and it's, I think for white people like me, it's a chance to reflect, like, just somebody who sees your face. What stories are they making up about you?
Yeah.
What stories are they making up without knowing that your dad was a man who sacrificed to come here without his family, to educate himself at one of the finest universities, Princeton, in America, to know then your story. I just think it's really eye-opening, and it's a good reflection. What stories am I making up about somebody based only, a whole story about you based on your hair, your nose, your lips, your skin color? Nobody knows. This is such a powerful thing. I knew this would be a good talk. I knew it, because I had a chemistry with you right away. You have a joy, you have an energy, and I think it's reflected in your product too. So as we wrap it up, I'm going to ask you one more question. But before we wrap up, I do want folks, again, remember, first thing that was said, what we can do is support Black-owned business. And I've worn the hell out of these three. I need to increase my inventory. But flairandsquare.com, FLARE and square.com. You're not doing this man a favor by going and buying his pocket squares. You're doing yourself a favor, because these are as fine a pocket square as I have ever owned. I have a whole basket. I'll go over and get the whole basket of them. Always percolate up to the top. And I say that from the heart. And I tell you every time we talk on social media, I'm like,
every time. No, I mean, and Chris, and in part, when you asked me to have this conversation, that's part of why, right? I wanted it to be. I felt comfortable doing it with you, because I know, even before all this happened, you've been supporting our business from when we first started it, and right, as I said, it was the exposure that you gave us that got us the opportunity to even get into a store.
Well, that fills my heart, because it shouldn't have to be that way. It really shouldn't.
It shouldn't, but that, again, that's what my business needed. And so again, I thank you and appreciate that opportunity. And that's why, I felt open enough to share my story with you.
Well, I thank you, because that's something else that has been brought to my attention. I'm not doing you any favors. It's not incumbent upon anyone who's Black to teach white people. It's incumbent upon us. So you are giving me a gift of your time, a gift of your story, and I appreciate it. It's a really powerful story. So as we wrap it up, I just want to ask, we talked about what you'd like to see people do tomorrow. What would you like? Where are we at as America? When you look down the line, because I'm a visual person, like I like to visualize the world I want to live in. Where would you like to see America a year from now? What's different? What's changed in America?
A year from now, I mean, a better political landscape to start off. And just right. I guess for me, I'd say this isn't news for me as a Black person, right? Right. Being worried about police brutality, being worried about racism, having that underlying stress. This isn't new. So to me, I mean, this is just the America I know and the America I live. I guess for me, right, I would love if a year from now, if we're still having this conversation, right? If we haven't given up, because it seems like, right, we get jazzed up and then a few months later, right, other things happen and this is always put on the back end, and that's why America has never fully dealt with this problem, and why we keep reliving this cycle is because we've never really dealt with this problem. And I think, I'd love to see if a year from now, if this issue was still as important as it is right now.
I think that's a beautiful point. That's a beautiful point. Let's not let this fizzle out, and then we revisit the whole thing again, and we're back to where we were. Let's move it forward. And I'm going to, I like to visualize, so I'm going to add that to my nightly visualization, that this conversation continues and expands and deepens, and more people start to have talks like this.
Right.
All right. So I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you again. Please tell your wife, because I know both of you, on top of everything else, have been dealing with COVID-19 and trying to run a business during it, and trying to be active while protecting both of your health. So tell her I wish her great health. And when all this is done, and we can actually meet and hug in person, let's do a story on Channel 2 Morning News about Flair and Square when I can interview you again. And
let's do it. And by then I'll be I'm working on with Andre Holiday starting a custom suit line as well. So hopefully by then we can talk custom suits too, Chris.
That's somebody else. That's somebody else I should talk to. He and I worked together. He suited me up for Critics' Choice Awards one year.
Yeah.
He's amazing person. Amazing. You got a good partner. You're gonna do great things together.
Yeah. He's teaching me. I mean, he's taking me under his wing and right to talk about why supporting Black business is important. Andre's been doing it for years, decades, right? And so to have a Black business owner like him who has that experience and wants to teach people like me, younger guys like me, how to do the same. I mean, that's exactly what we need when we talk about long-term economic development of Black people. So yeah, I'm excited. Andre and I, we got some crazy stuff coming. So we'll when we talk next, I'll have that for you.
You see the kind of stuff I wear at home. I need some flair on air and off. So
come on.
This constitutes a contract. Once the governor allows us to meet in person, we'll come and we'll do another story. You come in the studio and talk about what's next, because flairandsquare.com. It is a beautiful product by a beautiful man and a beautiful company. And I really believe everybody who's with us still ought to go. And, there's 1,000 people in your life that could use these, and we'll thank you for it. I thank you. Take it easy, my friend.
You too, Chris.
And I will see
you soon.
I will see you soon. I certainly hope so.
Yes. And then off script, I have this for you.
Oh yeah, we were gonna do this. My front desk was closed when you came by.
Yeah. What's the best? Should I just ship it to you? I have your address. I can just put it in the mail.
To everybody,
and that'll get to you.
Watching us too. These are these new things that you're doing. These box sets. Is it sealed right now? Can you unable to open it?
I can open it.
Just show people real quick, because this is a new product line Flair and Square does. Hold it closer to the camera. It's a whole box set. So you want a gift for, how cool is that? It all coordinates. Yeah, I'm pumped. So I'm going to do an unboxing, and we just did one now on the Facebook. Really cool. I love it. And those are, you can buy those on the website too?
Those are on the website. The sets are on the website.
That to me be the best thing for Father's Day. Because if your dad's like mine, he didn't know how to put stuff together. Your dad my dad doesn't. So that got the tie, you got the pocket square, and then the
socks and the bracelet. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's all there.
All right.
It's all there.
We'll get that box together. In the meantime, thank you for sharing it off on the show right now.
Of course. Yeah. But how do you want me to try and get it to you?
Well, let me say to everybody on Facebook, we're going to now go on a different frequency, he and I, so we can talk about this. Not that I don't want everyone to know my address.
No, you're good.
Thank you again. Thank you again, my friend.
Thanks so much, Chris.